Good morning. This morning we are beginning to find our way into Crocodile Shape or Makrasana. So as you come down towards your mat, perhaps you have some padding or support for your arms, and the forearms begin to stack. Fingertips reaching elbows, and then your forehead finding its way to your forearms. If you're wearing any jewellery or a watch, just making sure the arm on top is the one without the accessories, so you find a comfortable place for your forehead. And once you're there, taking a moment to feel into this shape, into this posture. If it feels a little bit too deep for your lower back, you may like to part the arms and rest your head on your stacked hands. It's going to soften the back bend just a little. As you begin to find stillness here in this shape, taking time to have a sense of balance between the legs, evenness or symmetry. Feet could rest in or out, toes in or out. And perhaps your feet rest on the front or the tops. Beginning to soften through shoulders. Perhaps relaxing your jaw. And breathing in and out through your nostrils if that feels possible this morning. Noticing your breath flow in and flow out. Watching your breath. And maybe begin to encourage your breath to the lowest parts of your lungs as you breathe in. Encouraging your inhalation to travel downwards, filling your lungs from the bottom up. And on your exhalation, beginning to really focus on a full exhalation. So encouraging your breath out to be as long as your inhalation. Emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Maybe noticing movement in your body with your breath. And you may perhaps notice a movement towards the back of your body. Nurturing a long inhalation and exhalation, and perhaps beginning to notice a little bit more space in your breath, expansion. Taking 4 more rounds here. Encouraging your ribcage to expand upwards and out as you breathe in. And when you're ready, beginning to release your hands into a T shape. Turning to gaze towards the right hand side. And finding our way into a pectoral stretch. So as you begin to slide your hands towards you, or your right hand towards you, rolling onto your left side. And your left hand is out, extended at shoulder height. Now you may come to a point and feel that's enough. You could bend the knees, just take a moment there. Or perhaps you want or would like to feel a stronger sensation. And this was where your right leg could bend and foot could plant behind you. So we're looking for sensations around the left shoulder, pectoral muscles, so in the upper front of the chest. You may even feel it elsewhere. If you feel you have tension or tightness in your neck, shoulder area. Is there any pain or strain easing off? On an exhalation, gently releasing back down, coming to your front. We'll come into that T shape again with the arms and finding this shape on the other side. Left hand beginning to slide towards your body, rolling over to your left side. Finding a point here where it feels okay. It's not painful, there isn't a strain, there's a sensation of a good stretch. Maybe your left foot begins to plant down and ground behind you. And very much feeling into your shoulder and what you need. On an exhalation, gently taking your time to roll back on your front. And you may like to push back into a child or downward dog or even puppy to gently compensate for our crocodile we began with, our back bend. A shape that brings your body in the opposite direction almost. When you feel ready, finding your way up to a comfortable seated position. That might be sitting cross-legged, it might be sitting on a chair. Really welcome to come to kneeling, or I prefer, for me, this particular shape works well for me, having the knees grounded in Shavasana. Wherever you have come to, a sense of grounding through your sitting bones. So it's almost like the earth is magnetic, that pull of gravity, grounding sitting bones, crown of your head rising up towards the sky. You may even like to take a roll of your shoulders, softening through the shoulder area. Beginning to find your right ear moving towards your right shoulder. Taking a few breaths here. If you are taking this practice or joining me for this practice in the morning, likely to be a little tighter. Sometimes we feel we've slept awkwardly or a pillow hasn't offered us the support we thought it should overnight. So really beginning to feel into the sensations on the left-hand side. Maybe you begin to take your hand and feel into a slightly stronger sensation. If it feels too strong, letting go, releasing. On an exhalation, releasing your hand. And you may then like to take your chin out. It's almost like a kick out of your chin at 45 degrees. Exhaling, gently releasing your chin and encouraging your head back to center. We'll take that on the other side. So this time, left ear coming towards left shoulder. Bringing your awareness to this side, the sensations you can feel and perhaps the difference compared to the first side. Maybe you begin to take your left hand and encourage a slightly stronger sensation, only if this is right for you. As you breathe in, releasing your head. And actually we'll take our 45-degree stretch. So left ears come towards left shoulder still, and there's a kick of your chin out a little. And I tend to feel it all the way down towards my shoulder, almost in the back of my body. You may find you feel it elsewhere. You can get into the side of the neck, the chin area. It's just an opportunity to explore a slightly different sensation and stretch in your neck. Gently dropping your chin back through center and finding your head back to upright. From here we'll begin to reach up. Reaching up tall, keeping our sitting bones grounded. And then bringing hands and arms into a cactus shape. That might be enough just there, or perhaps your elbows begin to reach back. It's almost as though you're trying to bring your shoulder blades together, beginning to open up a little more into the upper body. Perhaps you can feel this in the triceps or biceps. Exhaling, bringing your hands together, and we'll take one more movement there. Inhaling as you begin to open up. Crown of your head still rising, sitting bones still grounded. Exhaling, gently releasing. And we'll find our way onto all fours into tabletop shape. So as you begin to find your tabletop shape, it's a bit of a mouth twister, tongue twister, taking a moment to feel into your body, how your wrists are feeling, if you need any extra padding for your knees rolling up the mat. If the wrists are feeling tight, a little bit of height, a blanket or the rolled up end of your mat underneath your fingertips. And bending the elbows, you may like just to begin to take your hips from side to side, feeling into how your hips are doing. Maybe beginning to take some circling movements. And eventually finding stillness here. We'll come into a few rounds of cat-cow. So working with your rhythm here as you begin to drop into your belly. Belly moving towards the floor, towards your mat. Gaze moving forwards. And slowly curling your spine around into cat, reaching up for the sky. Gaze moving towards your knees or perhaps your navel. Hands set up, fingers spread. Weight even from your thumb to your little finger. Inner elbows facing each other, shoulder blades moving towards each other. If you like to integrate your breath, breathing in to take your gaze forwards, breathing out as you roll into cat. Taking two more rounds here, beginning to really wake it up the spine, vertebra by vertebra. And eventually finding Balasana, child's shape or form, or perhaps you prefer to come into puppy, extended half dog. Beginning to walk the hands forwards and bringing your forehead towards the mat, or perhaps using support. So any shape here that begins to find a little bit of length through your arms, the back of your body. Really welcome to come into downward dog if you feel you would prefer something stronger. On an inhalation, beginning to find your hands back underneath your shoulders, or roughly underneath your shoulders. And we'll come into a little bit of a side plank here, opening up through the upper body, working really with the head, neck, shoulders this morning. Taking your left hand and maybe moving it a little towards center, extending through the right leg, and then beginning to turn towards the right hand side. So big toe edge of the right foot is grounded, and turning with the right hand on your right hip. Taking a moment here, if there's any pain in the wrist, you could take a soft fist. That can be really helpful, that shape there. And then maybe you begin to reach up with your right hand. Option to take the hand a little further back if that feels good for you. Navel towards spine. Really beginning to engage the core, help stability, thinking about drishti point, our gaze, to Focus into stillness. And then maybe if you would like a little bit more of a challenge, you raise your right foot. Right foot flexed. Releasing through the jaw, softening your jaw. Gently dropping down the right foot as you ground, coming back round to our tabletop position. If you'd like to release the wrists, really welcome to, and encouraging perhaps to tuck your toes here, waking up the toes as you release your wrists. Eventually finding that starting shape once again. As you begin to ground through, spread your fingers. Right hand's coming a little closer to centre just to help with our balance. As we begin to extend through the left leg, left toes are grounded. As you begin to turn towards the left hand side, left hand is coming towards the left hip. Big toe, side of your foot grounded. And perhaps the whole foot is able to ground. Navel towards spine, gentle pelvic floor lift, Mula Bandha. And then maybe your left arm begins to rise, palm facing away. Shoulders drawing away from ears. Left arm perhaps moving back a little more if you feel you want a bit more of a spaciousness feeling around your armpit, shoulder. And then maybe if you feel you'd like to bring more of a balance into this shape, left leg could rise up. On an exhalation, gently lowering your left leg, slowly finding your way back round to our tabletop shape and releasing the wrists. And that might take the form of just coming to elbows and releasing wrists here. Maybe you come to sitting. Option here to take downward facing dog, or perhaps you come into Dolphin. So with Dolphin, elbows and arms are parallel. It's very similar to Sphinx, the arm set up here. Spreading the hands, really finding a sense of engagement through each finger. As you push into the fingertips, you may even find your forearms engage a little more. Elbows are about shoulder width apart, forearms are parallel. Shoulders then beginning to draw down away from your ears. And from here, similar downward dog legs, beginning to tuck the toes, sitting bones reaching up towards the sky. Keeping the knees bent as much as you need to here. Maybe you begin to straighten your legs a little, gaze towards your toes. Thinking about your body weight in your forearms. You may just want to hold this for 1 or 2 breaths. Perhaps you feel strong in your upper body today and like to take a few more breaths here. Very much finding the weight of this shape in your forearms and hands. You might like to begin to find your belly moving towards your thighs. And then option as well, if you come in, come out a few times, is to lift one leg up. Releasing that leg back down and taking a left or a lift through the left leg. Releasing that leg down and eventually finding your way into a resting shape. Catching your breath, allowing your heart rate to settle. And then eventually finding your way up to a standing position. Come into a little bit of a flow. Finding the top end of your mat. And feet could be together or hip distance apart. Finding your Tadasana, your mountain. Shoulders softening, fingertips reaching down towards the earth, crown of your head reaching up. Softness in your knees. On an inhalation, reaching up towards the sky. Exhaling, beginning to fold forwards, leading with your heart. Bending your knees as much as you need to. Softening shoulders away from ears. On your next inhalation, flat back. Perhaps your fingertips skim the mat or hands could come to shins. Exhaling, folding forwards. Right foot stepping back into warrior one. Beginning to rise up, left knee directly above left ankle. Maybe your feet are hip distance apart to help encourage the right hip forwards, left hip back. On an inhalation, reaching up towards the sky, if that's okay for your arms, your shoulders, maybe your gaze follows. Exhaling, arms floating down, hands coming behind your back. Either clasping your hands or taking hold of opposite wrists. Left shoulder coming towards the inside of your left knee. Humble warrior. If that feels a little too strong or too much for any part of your body, coming into a forward fold, just a soft forward fold. Making sure the shape, this yoga shape, works for you. Inhaling as you begin to power up, releasing your hands, beginning to turn towards the right hand side to come into a wide-legged forward fold. Welcome to take your feet a little bit wider, hands coming to hips, heart rising as you inhale, elbows moving towards each other, exhaling as you fold forwards, heart leading, making sure your feet are parallel. If your legs are straight, your quads are turned on. They're turned on to protect the knees. And then hands could come down towards the mat, or perhaps you take hold of opposite wrists or elbows. Breathing here, Prasarita Padanasana, offering a slightly different perspective of the world. Everything's upside down if you're gazing behind you. To rise up, we'll bend into our knees, begin to find our way up to standing. We're going to turn towards our right leg, so swiveling on the balls of our feet into a warrior shape here. Adjusting as you need to. Right knee over right ankle, breathing in, reaching up, and maybe taking cactus arms this time. On an exhalation, releasing hands to hips. We're going to begin to pivot on the left foot. We're into a lunge. Left heel is rising. Beginning to bend into both knees and finding the left foot meeting or parallel with the right. Making sure they feel parallel and finding your Tadasana. In your own time, taking this on the other side. So beginning to ground through your feet. Maybe you're lifting your toes, spreading your toes. Fingertips reaching down towards the earth. On an inhalation, you might prefer to take your hands out to the side. Exhaling, swallow dive as you fold forwards. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, forward fold. Stepping the left foot back, warrior one. Finding your stance here, left toes pointing to about 10 o'clock on the face of the clock, rising up. Welcome to have your feet maybe hip distance apart so you can encourage your left hip forwards, right hip back. Beginning to breathe in and reach up. Softening in shoulders. If there's any pain or strain in your shoulders, hands could rest on hips or in the lower back. As you exhale, arms begin to float down, taking hold of an opposite wrist, or perhaps clasping your hands, reaching away, coming into a forward fold or humble warrior, right shoulder coming to the inside of your right knee. On an inhalation, coming back up to standing. Releasing your hands and beginning to turn towards your left hand side, coming into our forward fold again. And if you'd like to take your feet wider, heel toeing your feet a little wider, sense of your feet parallel, little toe edges are parallel. Hands coming to hips, heart rising towards the sky, and on an exhalation beginning to fold forwards, leading with the heart, and that's going to encourage you to fold from your hips. Hands could come in contact with the floor, or maybe you take hold of opposite wrists or elbows. Taking a moment to ensure your quads are turned on, particularly if your legs are straight to protect the knees. Maybe nodding your head yes or no, releasing through the neck area. On an inhalation, bending into your knees, beginning to use the strength of your legs to almost power back up, releasing your hands. And this is where you may like to heel toe your feet in a bit more if you took a wider stance. Beginning to turn towards the left hand side, so beginning to pivot towards the left and find warrior on this side. Left knee over left ankle, right leg beginning to straighten, hips moving forwards a little, breathing in, reaching up. Option to take cactus arm here again. On an exhalation, hands coming back down towards hips, right heel lifted. So we're into a lunge position, even the right toes are pointing forwards, bending into the knees, stepping your right foot forwards and releasing your hands down towards the earth. Before we come all the way down towards the mat, we'll come into a forward fold, a gentle forward fold with the hands behind the back. So option is to take the hands and reach them up towards the sky. Or maybe you prefer to have your hands resting on your lower back or taking hold of opposite elbows. Feet about hip distance, softness in the knees, sitting bones rising up towards the sky, gaze behind you or towards your knees. On an exhalation, allowing your hands to come back down towards your body. Perhaps hands come into shins as you slide your hands up your shins, the front of your thighs, as you begin to rise up slowly to standing. Taking your time to find your way down towards your mat. This is where we're going to begin to cool down. So taking any extra layers you would like to. Semi-supine position. Perhaps support for your head. That feels good for you. And we'll begin to draw in our right knee. Focus today has been on head, neck and shoulders, just making sure we've found a little bit of space in the lower body. Hips. Welcome to begin to bring some movement to your right foot. Perhaps even reach up as well. Right foot beginning to ground and left foot drawing in. Perhaps bringing some movement to your foot. Maybe reaching up towards the sky. And when you feel ready, encouraging your left foot back down towards the earth. You may like to draw both knees in for a hug, perhaps even finding some movement, massaging your lower back, and taking any movement here that feels helpful before you find your way into relaxation. And that might be Shavasana, feet apart, palms facing the sky. Maybe semi-supine position feels more suitable for you this morning, or perhaps you prefer to come to rolling on your side, curled up. Finding a shape for relaxation that suits your body this morning. Beginning to settle into the shape, and as you begin to soften and find stillness, encouraging areas of softness, particularly around the joints. So thinking about ankles and knees, hips and shoulders, a sense of melting and softening. Elbows and wrists and fingers and toes. Allowing these areas to create and find space and perhaps melt into the earth beneath you. Finding your breath, perhaps following, watching the journey of your breath. Using this as an aid to still your mind. Encouraging your softness in your jaw, your tongue to rest in the lower part of your mouth. And taking this time for you to rest and restore. Taking your time to reorientate yourself where you are in your room, your space. Perhaps you're able to stay there for a little longer. Welcome to turn this recording off and enjoy a few more minutes of rest. Otherwise, beginning to find movement, perhaps a deeper breath. And when you feel ready, finding your way over onto one side, curled up, perhaps with your knees bent and the support of an arm under your head. When you feel ready, finding your way up to a seated shape, using any support to help and find length and space through your spine, softening your shoulders, and taking a moment here to acknowledge any changes you can sense or feel, your mind, your body, your breath. Welcome to join your hands together at Heart Center, Anjali Mudra if you'd like to, or perhaps taking your hands across your heart. Thanking yourself for practicing yoga, giving yourself this time, this gift. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to take my hands to my forehead for kind thoughts, to my lips for kind words, and to my heart center for kind actions. Om Shanti.